Hello everyone and welcome to the 14th edition of the Sack Race Weekly. I'm Jack Kitson and I'll be joined by Simon from Empty Seats. We've got Steve Bruce and Frank Lampard under the managerial microscope today. Both are under pressure. Both are up there in the favourites to leave. Should they stay or should they go? We look at a few potential replacements if they were to leave. We also have updates on the Fleetwood, Sheffield Wednesday and Port Vale jobs too. Please do subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching our videos so far and check out thesackrace.com. Frank Lampard has been installed as the new odds-on favourite for the sack. 5 defeats in 8 games. They've slid to 8th in the table and they're way off the pace at the moment. Not in terms of just results, but in terms of performances as well. Doesn't seem to be too much of an identity or a plan. It's all a bit chaotic at Chelsea, as we've seen before in the past so many times. Simon, does Lampard deserve more time? If so, how can he turn things around at Chelsea?
Yeah, he definitely does deserve more time. I mean, he's not had that long in charge. This summer was a big one in terms of bringing in big name players, obviously the likes of Havertz and Werner. Came in for big money. It looked like he was building this super team, but with that came the pressure that he didn't have last season when he didn't have any money to spend and they had that transfer ban. So it's different expectations. I think he's struggling to cope with them slightly. I don't think they're too far off it. I mean, they are in 8th. I think if Liverpool win, they'll be about 7 points or 8 points off the Champions League places, which isn't, that isn't too difficult to turn around over the second half of the season. So there is a lot of work to do. I think they need to be a bit more positive. They've got a lot of attacking talent and they look a bit stale when they get to the final third. So a few difficulties at Chelsea for sure, but nothing Lampard won't be able to sort out. It's a tricky one for him at the moment, but I don't think they'll get rid of him yet.
An obvious yet perhaps pivotal point is his lack of experience. Easy to say in hindsight, of course, but he's not been in certain situations before while other managers have, and they can draw on those situations, the setbacks and the successes. We've seen Klopp 7 years at Mainz, 7 years at Dortmund before he got the Liverpool job. Dean Smith, he's had plenty of experience at Walsall, Brentford in the EFL. Brendan Rodgers has been at Watford, Reading, promotion at Swansea before he got his chance at Liverpool. Then he's been up and had success at Celtic. Now, of course, he's at Leicester. It can work, of course. Mourinho didn't have too much success before Porto. As well, Pep Guardiola, I mean, he's a bit of a unique case. He had great time and combined with one of the best footballing brains ever at Barcelona. So it can work. But Lampard is under big pressure at the moment. There are various reports. Sky are reporting that Tuchel's interested, Allegri's interested. The Athletic are reporting that Chelsea want a German-speaking boss. But he's believed to have about 3 games, Luton, Wolves and Burnley. If he does leave, we've got the odds up here. It's Thomas Tuchel who is the favourite. You can get him at 2-1 at the moment with Bet Victor. He's odds on elsewhere. Andriy Shevchenko surprised them in the frame at 4-1. Max Allegri, the Italian, 6-1. Julian Nagelsmann, 8-1. Brendan Rodgers, 8-1. Ralph Rangnick, 14-1. And the same price as Ralph Hasenhüttl. Simon, which of those names would you like to see come in if Lampard does leave?
I think Tuchel is a brilliant shout. We've talked about him on here before, how much quality he brings to the dugout. He had good success at PSG. If you ignore his kind of last few months, he's had good success everywhere he's been, really. I really like Tuchel as a manager. He's exciting. He's German speaking, which I think is a positive. Checks one of those boxes you mentioned. I think he would be a really good choice. So I think Tuchel has to be favourite for a reason. But you also touched on managers like Brendan Rodgers. I don't think he'll get the Chelsea job. I think Leicester are in a much better place. But you mentioned the experience he's got, some of the clubs he's managed. He would be a good pick, But yeah, I think they will go for someone like Tuchel. I don't think Allegri quite fits the plan yet. I think Tuchel's got to be number one choice.
Check out our previous video, the managers we want to see back in 2021. Tuchel is top of the pile for a reason. The football he plays is so exciting. He's got the experience, he's got the success as well, he's got the trophies on the CV. He seems the perfect sort of manager for Chelsea. We've spoken before, Max Allegri, the Italian love affair Chelsea have with managers. There are plenty in the past that have been very successful. He wants to come to the Premier League and he's known to be very interested, according to Sky Sports. Brendan Rodgers, of course, would be brilliant. He's been at Chelsea before in a coaching capacity, but he's not going to leave midway through the season, especially when he's mounting a title challenge. Same with Julian Nagelsmann. I don't see him switching from RB Leipzig at the moment, but again, the summer could be an option. Andriy Shevchenko, real interesting one. He's gone under the radar in managerial terms. He's spent nearly 5 years now in charge of the Ukrainian national team. That has absolutely flown by. He didn't get them to the World Cup 2018, but he's got them through to Euro 2020. He beat Spain recently, the only manager to beat Spain in the last 2 years. So he's around the mix of 4-1. I don't know if he's still got a relationship with Roman Abramovich. He didn't do well there as a player, but could he come back and surprise us as a manager? But guys, there is a man who could be expecting a phone call rather soon, is Guus Hiddink. He's of course been there twice in a caretaker interim capacity. He is in the Caribbean at the moment. He's got a job at Carasio, I think it's pronounced. But if he's getting a call from Roman, expect him to be back at Stamford Bridge rather soon.
But Jack, what about Avram Grant? You haven't even given Avram Grant a mention. That's who I want to see back in the Chelsea dugout.
I've not even given Grant a mention. He got them to a Champions League final, of course. He's been linked. That would be brilliant, wouldn't it? Avram Grant fighting it out with the likes of Solskjaer, Pep, Klopp, Mourinho as well. It would be brilliant. And Rodgers. It would be brilliant to see. But check out the sackrace.com for all the odds, the Premier League, next Premier League manager to leave market and the Chelsea market. I personally would like to see Lampard given more time. I know he's had 18 months already and he probably didn't deserve to get the job. Other managers have really worked hard to build up experience and have had success elsewhere, where he's sort of had 1 year at Derby, then jumped into the job. I know he's a Chelsea legend, but I'd like to see him given at least until the end of the season, but we'll see what happens there. Speaking of managers under pressure, we have Steve Bruce, who was the favourite for the sack before Lampard's woes came apparent after the Leicester defeat. He's 9 games without a win. He's been booted out of both domestic clubs. The tactics, pretty negative. I know he sort of went for it against Arsenal, but they still only had about 30% possession and 1 shot on target. But there's just no joy. It's a bit soul-sapping. The fans are absolutely fuming. They're looking envious glances at the like of Leicester, who have Brendan Rodgers, Southampton, Ralph Hasenhüttl, and even Villa, Dean Smith. 3 progressive managers with 3 distinctive and attractive philosophies, if you like. Simon, what do you make of Steve Bruce at Newcastle?
Dull. To be brutally honest, it's really difficult. Newcastle fans, in honestly, deserve way better. You mentioned the teams they should be up there with. They should be competing for the European places. They're an absolutely giant club. They should be challenging for Premier League titles like they were in the 90s. And somehow they've just got used, and I think the media have got used to this mediocrity of finishing, 16th in the Premier League, being in a relegation battle and not playing any exciting football. I don't think Steve Bruce is the man to take them forwards. I do like the guy. I like some of the stuff he's done. I really like him as a person. He's a boyhood Newcastle fan. He deserved a chance at the job, but I don't think there's any progression that's going to happen here under Steve Bruce. I can't see this one ending well.
As you touched on it, he is a nice guy. You can't question his work rate or his character, but the abuse he's getting, or the criticism he's getting, is almost relentless at the moment. He has resigned from jobs 7 times in the past. Do you think it'll get to a stage where he could walk away himself?
That's a tricky one, isn't it? I mean, I don't think anyone's questioning Steve Bruce's character or his experience, but I think this is a game where you've got to make cutthroat decisions, and unfortunately for Newcastle and their fans, it's just not quite happening at the moment. I don't think the squad is that good, in all honesty. He's not like he's working with an amazing squad, so it is difficult at Newcastle. I don't think Mike Ashley as well, he's not one to quickly sack managers for all his criticism. Managers under him too do tend to get a little bit of time, so I don't think Bruce will get sacked anytime soon. I think he could have a couple more months under his belt at the very least. Could he resign? I don't think he'd want to walk away from this chance at Newcastle, to be honest. I know he's walked away from the likes of Sheffield Wednesday in the past, but I think there were slightly different circumstances for Bruce himself. I think this is potentially his dream job. I hope it's not turning into a nightmare for him. But yeah, I don't think he'll walk away. I think it'll be a few more months of him in charge at Newcastle before Ashley might get a bit sick of it and look to get somebody else in.
He's got 4 promotions to the Premier League, of course, but once he's got to the Premier League, he's had a couple of relegations. I think he's had 2 top 10 finishes, but the rest he's done pretty averagely. He's stuck in that sort of zone between the Championship and the Premier League. But he needs a win, and he needs it soon. You think Mike Ashley, he's shown faith. Well, no one knows what Mike Ashley's thinking or doing, but he's appearing to show faith in Bruce. But there must come to a point where even he thinks, look, we need a change. If that does happen, Eddie Howe is up there at 4-1, the current favourite for the job. He's ready, he's available, he plays attractive football, and he wants to return to the Premier League. Simon, do you think that could happen?
Yeah, I mean, I've said before, I think a couple of weeks ago, I think Eddie Howe's next job will be Newcastle or Crystal Palace, either one of them. I think decent Premier League clubs, and he wants a Premier League job, so it would make perfect sense for him to go to either one of these clubs. So yeah, I think he'd be a really good shout. But to be honest, I'd rather see one of the Championship managers get a chance to step up a level without winning promotion. I mean, the likes of Steve Cooper at the top of the Championship, near the top of the Championship, he's done an absolutely brilliant job. Maybe Thomas Frank at Brentford as well. I know they're building really positive clubs there with Brentford and Swansea, and it all seems to be going well for both managers. But would they be tempted by an instant Premier League job? And let's be honest, an absolutely massive Premier League club in Newcastle. I think they might be, So I think Newcastle should consider a few of their options here.
It's always a risk stepping up, of course, but both Steve Cooper and Frank are flying this season. They've done so well. But we'll see. Going back to Howe, he has worked with Wilson and Fraser before, of course. So wait and see what happens on that one. Max Allegri is a pipe dream, I think, unless there's a takeover. Same with Rafa Benitez. He's not going to come back from China unless Mike Ashley is no longer there. We did a tweet earlier in the week. For some reason, Mark Hughes was up there at 4-1. He said he wants to come back to the dugout. But from what we received on Twitter, we don't think fans would like that one. And maybe rightly so. Joey Barton, probably a bit soon to him, a former Newcastle player. He's free, did a really good job at Fleetwood. But stepping up 2 divisions, probably a bit too far at the moment. But maybe in the future we'll see. I do think if a change happens maybe towards the end of the season, going into the summer, Steven Gerrard, fresh after what we expect to be his first trophy of management, the Scottish Premier League title, he is 51 to be the next Newcastle manager. Simon, do you think he could leave Rangers for Newcastle, or would he stay at Rangers, win more trophies, or has he got his long-term sights set on the Liverpool job?
Yeah, no, I don't think he is the right fit for the Newcastle job, and I don't think he'd really fancy it. In my opinion, the way things are going, I think Steven Gerrard is likely to be the next Liverpool manager, to be truthful. I think Jurgen Klopp obviously doing an absolutely brilliant job there, earning his stripes a few more years of that. And then Gerrard, with his work he's done at Rangers, perhaps he'd like a job in the Premier League to get a bit more experience. And that we mentioned that with Lampard only having the Derby job before he went to Chelsea, and how that's backfired on him a little bit. But Gerrard, for me, he is the successor to Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool. Obviously, he's worked very closely with the club, an absolute legend there. I think he'll be there in a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, and I think Steven Gerrard will probably be the Liverpool manager with the way things are going with players being appointed at their former clubs. Jack, do you think that the players will still, like Gerrard, will get jobs at Liverpool like we've seen with Lampard and Solskjaer? Or do you think it's a bit of a fad at the moment?
We've seen Arteta, Lampard come in, get jobs. We've seen Pirlo as well, who's just won his first trophy at Juventus, by the way, but they aren't doing too well in the league. I do think, because of the success of Pep Guardiola and maybe Zidane, who isn't doing too well now but did originally, the success of these high-profile names getting jobs without too much experience has sort of triggered this wave of high-profile players getting these jobs. I'd like to see Gerrard stay at Rangers for a little bit. He's already been there. It's his 3rd season already, but I'd like to see him just build that bit more experience, get those trophies on the board, a bit like Brendan did, and then we'd all have to see him dip down into the Premier League. Newcastle job, Steven Gerrard and Newcastle, it is exciting. I do think it will get the fans revved up, but who knows? I don't know if he'd take the job with Mike Ashley in charge, but if there's a takeover, we'll have to see what happens. Simon, on to section 3. We're quickly going to touch on 3 vacancies that we went into more detail in the previous episode. We've got Sheffield Wednesday, Fleetwood and Port Vale. Starting with Sheffield Wednesday, just after we recorded last week, Vladimir Ivic came out of nowhere and he remains the favourite. Apparently they've approached him a while ago, but nothing's really happened. How did you find he got on at Watford?
I think I've been fairly consistent with what I've been saying about Watford this season, and Ivic in particular massively underperformed. This was a Watford team who, in my opinion, are the strongest in the Championship, and I actually still believe that, even with Norwich flying at the top of the table. You look at their squad, it's absolutely packed full of Premier League quality. Ben Foster, Deeney, Ismaila Sarr, Chalobah, Tom Cleverley even. I mean, these are players that shouldn't be in the Championship at all, and for Ivic, it just didn't happen going forward for him. It was really boring to watch. It was a lack of ideas. It was slow at times. And yeah, I wasn't that impressed with him. I know it was another risky appointment, wasn't it, from Watford? And I think we knew that at the time. I would be surprised if he got the Sheffield Wednesday job as well, given how he performed with Watford in the Championship. Having said that, he didn't leave them in the bottom half of the table or anything. He actually left them when they were 6th, I think, in the Championship, which isn't too bad at all. But for me, expectations are much higher than that at Watford this season. So yeah, a slight underperformance from Ivic. Perhaps he could succeed somewhere else, but I wouldn't be giving him the Sheffield Wednesday job.
Neil Thompson, caretaker, he's looking for his 4th win in a row against Everton in the Cup. He's 4-1. Paul Cook still in the mix at 6-1. He said talks are no longer ongoing. I think fans would just want to urge the club to get back in contact with Cook, and hopefully they can work something out. But finally, Darren Moore's come into the mix at 6-1, the Doncaster boss. Done such a great job on a limited budget there in League One. He was linked with Barnsley early in the season. Do you think he could switch Yorkshire clubs to Sheffield Wednesday?
Yeah, I've been massively impressed with Darren Moore. And also, this is a man who's got Championship experience, and it's very easy to forget that. But he's done a really good job at Doncaster. I think, again, this squad has been depleted slightly. They've lost Ben Whiteman to Preston this month, who's their captain and best player in my opinion. So it might be a bit of a struggle for them to get into the playoffs over the second half of the season, given they've lost their most influential player. But for Darren Moore, I think he would like the chance to step up a level. And I've just mentioned the Championship experience he had with West Brom, and he won a Premier League Manager of the Month, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a manager who's performed at the highest level. I think he'd be a good appointment, to be quite honest. And I think he would probably take this job.
Quickly on to Fleetwood. It's remained the same pretty much this market. Tim Cahill's still up there alongside caretaker Simon Wiles. Gab Sutton's done a brilliant piece on the satrace.com, 9 reasons why Simon Wiles should get that job. So check it out online. And then on to Port Vale as well, still looking for a manager. I'm afraid there's not too much to say here either. Danny Pugh, the caretaker, still the autumn favourite, and we've got Adam Murray at 6-1, Graham Coughlin 6-1, and Sam Ricketts 14-1. So check out the site for that. Simon, thank you very much.